President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday presented the 2024 budget of about 27.5 trillion naira with various breakdown where he said that security, education, poverty reduction is a top on his agenda. Also, we will be looking at what the court has said concerning the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs to give detail about the school feeding during the lockdown of over 500 million naira. So we will be looking at all of the stories, the way we do it here on Nigeria Now, where we look at some of the government policies, where we'll also be looking at politics, crime as they relate to us here in the country. I am Sarah Elisha Dasham, and you can follow us live on Facebook and on YouTube. Drop your comment, drop your views on any of the story or some of this event we will be looking at here on the show. And I'll be doing this alone. I have with me Rachel Tanzan. Together we will tackle these stories one after the other. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Good afternoon, Celia.
All right, quite a number of issues or stories that we would love to look at this afternoon. But I think it's important, let's take a look at accountability, transparency, and auditing as well. We will record early in the morning, which we talk a little about it, and I think this is the proper time to actually dissect it, x-ray it as it should be. We have seen that the court is actually probing the minister to actually give an account detail of about 535.8 million school feeding during the lockdown. And now we know that the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has actually ordered the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, that is in the person of Dr. Beth Edu, to actually release the detail of how the sum of 535.8 million was spent on feeding of school children. We will record that was during the COVID-19. And a lot of expectation or explanation Nigerians need to how come such an amount of money was spent when everybody was at home. Their parents were actually feeding them. I mean, that was a time when a lot of people came back from either school or looking like angry chickens. Permit me to actually use that word. The whole world was on lockdown. So questions will be, how comes we're having such a huge amount of money being used? And also the fact that the former minister, which happens to be Farouk, was actually being called as of August 2020, but she refused to honor that call, because she was supposed to give explanation of why that amount of money was actually being used. Meanwhile, nobody was in school out of that time. And when we talk about the school feeding, we're talking about primary school pupils, government school precisely, not even private school. And then this amount of money is being used. And it is very sad, the fact that a lot of Nigerians do not know that we have an act that's actually called Freedom of Information. You have the freedom to actually ask for a particular information if it's not being made available. And this was what, the civil organization talking about. I think there was a civil organization being called, where they actually called the minister to actually give detail of this information. Why such an amount of money is missing, and nobody have said anything. She refused to honor the invitation being given by the court, until they were yet to hear anything. No wonder the present humanitarian affair is being settled without responsibility to actually give us detail of what happened to that amount of money when everybody was sitting at home.
Nigerians are busy hustling, trying to make a living, that they do not know what their rights are. Talk more of us knowing that we do have rights to information. A common Nigeria, trust me, don't know they have the right to certain things. Everybody just wants to survive. That's how we've been subdued in this country, to the extent that even things that should matter don't matter. People will even see it as trivial, like in the first place. It's your business proving that I just want to see food to eat and stuff like that. But that's on a lighter note, Celia. When you look at this expenditure, COVID-19 is COVID-19 because it started in 2019. Started ending 2019. And by February, there was lockdown. Total, yes. All across the country, the world, and even in Nigeria, where a lot of academic years started for our universities, primary, secondary school. We just had a little bit of resumption, and then school was closed. And throughout 2022, there was no school activities. Up to 2021, school started going back towards the ending of 2021. That's when universities resumed, if we can clearly remember, and then shortly they went on strike. That is, by the way, it means that We're not even supposed to record anything for feeding for 2020, and 2021 should not even be up to 100 billion if it even took place, because full activities, we regained everything 2022 worldwide, including Nigeria, because we knew how it was. We didn't even have access to a lot of things, and even as at the ending of last year, we still had people dying of COVID-19. So the world, I mean, came back to life 2023. If we're going to be honest, economy started going back, picking up. Yes. So now the thing is, why did it even have to take this long? You understand? If she didn't come, you have to force her to come. I keep saying that there are certain things when you want to implement, when you truly want to be accountable, when you want Nigeria to move, it shouldn't be optional for people to whether to adhere or not. It shouldn't be optional whether she comes and give this breakdown and account for it or not. If this is coming from a court, there should be a court order that she needs to appear. And when she doesn't, there should be a court contempt, not the kind of court contempt we keep seeing our judiciary giving when it shouldn't even be. This is very important. This is Nigerian money. This is crucial. Let's not forget that our budget, we're looking at every budget we've had in this country, it's on borrowed fund and on deficit. So it means either way, we have majority of what we are financing in this country from borrowed money. So when you give out money and you do not follow it as the federal government, and you allow it for the minister to choose whether she would show up or not, it shows how not only her is not accountable, but even the people that are supposed to make her accountable are not accountable.
Who approved that budget?
Exactly. In the first place, for 2020, when you know that schools are on lockdown, what do you expect? It will be spent, and it will be given a reason for the expenditure. And this is the result of what we are seeing. And it shouldn't repeat itself. It shouldn't repeat itself, because it looks like this is the norm. I mean, you made mention in the morning, Sele, money embezzlement is organized crime. Yes. Very organized, because there's an accountant that is wiring this money. There's somebody that is signing that this money has been disbursed for this thing and it haven't been done. It is very organized. It is the highest form of organized crime, because it's very corporate in nature. And that is why when I see us joking or being relaxed concerning money embezzlement in this country, corruption, it just shows us that we don't want to go far, because this is a high form of criminality that people should be rotting in jail for this type of crimes. But I see people walking scot-free. Exactly, going scot-free.
What happened to the EFCC boss? What happened to the ICPC? Because this is a cover-up, embezzlement, pandemic scam. This is clear indication of scam nature. So I'm just hoping that beyond us talking about this here, I'm hoping to see what the Federal High Court is going to do about it. Because right now, the eyes of Nigeria is on it. The independent civil organization that asked for that information, and she has derived the opportunity to get that information. I'm just hoping that the right thing will be done, just like we're saying, starting from the minister, the ministry, and also hold the accountant that actually disburses that money. Everybody that is involved needs to come and answer some questions, and we hope we get the answer. So it shouldn't be left whether you want to respond to the letter or not, whether you want to come to the court or no. We have to bypass this. We have to pass this level of leaving people to actually live and do things when they feel like doing it or not. Now, Rachel, still talking about we are living on borrowed funds. That was the word you used. The fact that we're seeing that minister have actually spent the money. Now, finally, our beloved president have presented the budget of 2024 to the Joint House, talking about the Senate and the National Assembly. Now, before the presentation of that budget, the way the president was welcomed, a lot of Nigerians are frowning at that, Rachel.
Yes.
The president was welcomed with a song of allegiance, a song that was used during his campaign, the mandate of the president. And a lot of people are frowning the fact that our legislature have turned to be hype men. where we're supposed to be having that house is called the House of Parliament, Richard, and Parliament is meant for the people.
It's for everybody, Sele.
So it's supposed to be, if there's any song that was supposed to be played, there's supposed to be the national anthem,
Exactly,
because
Sele, the
we
national
are
anthem,
all
yeah.
allegiant to that. We
Yeah.
all pledge to our country. That should have been the song that will be played there. But that was not the song that was played there, Richard. We were talking about by the mandate of the president, and then we are forgetting that that house
The
is not.
mandate of the president is the budget of Nigeria.
Now, Rachel, we are even forgetting, or let me not even say we, the house is forgetting the fact that not only do we have APC members there, we have Labour, we have APGA, we have PDP, we have a number of parties over there in the house, and that song was being played. And we saw a lot of lawmakers sitting down quietly. And a lot of Nigerians are asking, how do you expect them to talk? When a lot of Nigerians were frowning at the money that they were going to use to buy XUV, and none of them came out to say, no, I'm rejecting, I can't collect this money because my people are suffering. Nobody said that. And we saw them playing that song, Rachel. Now, before we go into the budget mainly, because that is the body
That
of our discussion
is,
today, I just want to
yeah.
hear your own views about this, because a lot of Nigerians are not finding this thing funny. And this is not the first time we're hearing this
It's
song
not
being
the
played,
first time,
where
Sele.
we're supposed to be having a meeting. This is a serious issue. This is not an APC party campaign or whatsoever where the song should be played.
Sele, it honestly feels like there's little or nothing Nigerians can do about some misconduct when it comes to our lawmakers. I mean, I will take it back, because this thing still surprises me when you will sit down as a Senate president and pass a bill, a joke, and say, let the poor breathe, and the ayes have it and the nays have it.
And everybody laughed.
And everybody laughed.
What was funny about that?
So, I mean, if a 10th assembly can make joke about the economic situation of a country, that the standard of your people who voted you into power is going down every single day, and you can really make joke about it, I won't be surprised if they are very unpatriotic to that nature to sing something like that. I won't be surprised, and of course I'm not surprised. It's just disappointing, because we just have to say it as it is, because this is a misconduct.
Serious
And you
misconduct.
wonder, what is the sanction for such behaviors?
I mean, this
Because
is
it
where we're
shouldn't
supposed to
even
be
be seen.
having letters being sent by various constituencies to
Exactly.
their senators to come back home and give us explanation for what's happening there.
Exactly, because not only do we have different parties, Sele, this is a house where different ethnic groups and everybody is represented. This is Nigeria. This is the face, the different shades and types of face of Nigeria, coming from different regions, coming from different zones. It's not a party meeting, okay? It shouldn't be heard of in the first place. And I believe this is where our laws, we're supposed to open our books and say there is a law that is not accepted in the house, and therefore this is the penalty for certain things. But we wouldn't see it because we see it as trivial, but it shouldn't be in the first place. So I just hope that our lawmakers grow up, Sele. Let them grow up and honestly stop being childish, because they
Truly,
are
a lot
to
of
an
growing
extent.
up is
Yeah,
needed
they
over
need to
there, Rachel,
grow
because
up
this-
and then govern Nigeria, because there's a
True.
lot of problem, and we need to see solutions, not songs that will not take us anywhere.
In fact, Rachel, I think if we're going to sum this thing up, it's the fact that the legislature needs to know that they are also an independent body on their own. They are another arm of
They
the government.
are, yes.
Let the executive be on its own, the legislature be on their own, and the judiciary should be on its own. No wonder Nigerians are feeling that this is another rubber stamp house again, whereby they
feels
can't
that
do
way.
anything without actually, reducing their level to another level. Well, now let's look at the budget properly.
Budget selling.
You and I started in the morning and we're looking at the budget where we saw the president saying that he's going to be concentrating on education, poverty reduction, and meet many other things. And we have a table, and I really want us to take a look at that
Yeah.
table, Rachel. Because after looking at that table, I was able to compare last year's, or I keep
This
saying
year,
last year,
yeah, because
2023
it feels
budget
like,
and 2024 budget, and then looking at our inflation rate presently, looking at our exchange rate as
yeah.
well, and then looking at the fact that what difference does it make? In the morning we saw where even the PDP are saying that, Nigerians should not get carried away by this budget, because it's more like we are moving,
suffocating. Just so many words used.
so many words being used over
Yeah.
there. It looks like more we are moving toward a totalitarianism in the
Hopeless.
country. hopeless
Budget.
situation,
Yeah.
strangulation. They use all manner
of
of words
words,
to actually look at this. And we saw even when the speaker said the fact that Nigerians are going through a lot of hardship, and therefore it is imperative that this budget should capture the the need for Nigerians. Now, for defense, we're seeing that as of last year, the budget for defense was 2.22 trillion naira. And for this year, we are having the budget to be about 3.25 trillion naira. I don't know if our control room can help us with that table so we can have a proper look at it. Now, that's the 2024 budget section allocation. Now we're seeing defense for this year. We're having 3.25 trillion naira. And just like I said, last year, we had about 2.22 trillion naira. Now for education, we're seeing that this year, or for 2024 rather, we're having 2.18 trillion naira. And then for 2023, we had 1.08 trillion naira. And Rachel, I took the liberty to look at the breakdown under education.
Yes.
And I discovered that for the Federal Ministry of Education, they will be having 1.23 trillion naira. And then for universal basic education, they will be having 251.47 billion naira. And then for tertiary education trust fund, there will be about 700 billion. And then we're also looking at the fact that for the, we remember there's going to be a student, like a loan, and about 50 billion is being given. Now, all is captured under that 2.18 trillion naira. And we remember when the Minister of Education said we'll be having an additional 25%. Now, Rachel, just these two, before we go to health, remembering the fact that our lecturers have Japan, our doctors have also left the shores of Nigeria. So we are complaining about brain drain.
Yes.
Now, let's now make sense of this budget, because we'll try as much as possible to see how we can be fair to the government in our analysis of this budget.
Yes, Sele. I mean, it's going to be difficult to be fair to the government because I'm seeing the same past mistake being repeated again. And secondly, in as much as I'm seeing that UBEC is getting 251 billion, point something billion, and we saw it yesterday on the paper where there is already a report and a complaint that 100 billion yearly cannot do anything. So it looks like there's an increase of 151 billion thereabout. However, Sele, what is the value of our currency as it is now? And this is where I believe that it is the same budget or less, because when the 2023 budget was made in 2022, our exchange rate was within 300 to 400 naira at the official at the official market, and now we are looking at an exchange rate of over 800 at the official market, and yet we are having this budget having key indices of it being 750. Now, we do not know for sure if we can achieve that by 2024, but we are seeing an estimate that that will be it. So this is also risky, because if we do not get that exchange rate of 750, it means that we are not going to, I mean, it's going to be a tough 2024 if it doesn't go down or value appreciate to this figure by 2024. Now, the one of the mistake I am seeing, I mean, Sele, that's why I said it's going to be difficult to be really positive about the budget, is you are making what would be the opposite of estimate? The budget is not an estimate.
This is just a proposed budget.
It is for sure, because it has been approved. I mean, it's just going to go through. I mean, our lawmakers are not going to change anything.
Well, Rachel, let's hope that they do.
So they are going. There's most likely going to be added. It won't be reduced. It's most likely going to be added, because if you reduce anything, a lot of things will be defunded. That is the truth. Looking at this budget, if anything is reduced, it's going to be, we are going to find a lot of defunding. So it's most likely going to increase, right? And we are having this budget on an estimated income, whether we like it or not, we will spend this money. Looking at the way Nigeria is going, don't forget that we are going to be importing things that were banned in the past. So we are now also going to have expenditures that wasn't captured in the previous budget for 2023, captured in this 2024 budget. So yes, Sele is most likely going to, remember it started at 26 and it went up to 27. So the most likelihood of this budget is going high, not going down. And then we are having an estimate of 18 trillion revenue.
Yeah.
Now remember that the president said is 8.7 trillion into borrowing. Now I will go down through a little bit of mathematics, because debt servicing, according to this budget, is going to go up 8.25 trillion naira. Now, if we are going to look at a revenue of 18 trillion naira, now don't forget that debt servicing is taken away from our revenue. We can't borrow to service debt. It has to come from us. So when you minus that, we are left with 9.75 trillion naira in revenue. Now, it means that we are left with 19.25 trillion naira expenditure for the budget.
Yes.
Now, with this 19.25 trillion naira, if you minus 9.75 trillion of what is left from our revenue, we would have to borrow 9.5 trillion naira. Only if we are able to make 18 trillion in revenue for 2000. So imagine, it's an estimate. So we could make less or we could make more. But worst case scenario, if we don't make that 18 trillion naira, because let's not forget, this is also on the fact that we will make 1.7 million barrels per day of crude oil, and we're not making that
yet.
We're
envisioning 2 million barrels per day.
And we're still at 1.3 million barrels per day. That's if we try. We're not getting there. That's if we try in a month. We don't get there usually when it comes to oil production as it is. So we are at 9.53 trillion naira borrowing from 8.7, 9.5, and only if Sele, we make 18 trillion. So if we do not make 18 trillion, we will be borrowing more than this, because whether we like it or not, we have to fund certain things in the country,
and we don't have the money.
And we don't have the money, or else it's just going to be a very difficult financial year come 2024. So looking at this budget is, now this is where we have to keep our hopes up if we must be negative, that let the federal government put all hands on deck, that we should make more than 18 trillion naira in revenue, and we can do it. This is where the hope is for Nigeria, that we do have the capacity to make more than 18 trillion naira in revenue. If every revenue making agency, agriculture should function, if our tax should go high, if we saw where the Minister of Marine Economy is telling us that it has the potential of generating $10 billion for us annually, although it might take a while. But if everywhere should function and generate this revenue, we can surpass 18. That is the only hope for Nigeria, that we make this revenue and above it. If not, Sele, we are doomed.
God help us, we're going to make it richer, because a lot of analysts are looking at this budget and they said Nigeria have the capacity to even make 30 trillion naira revenue.
We do.
If only every ministry will be involved. And that is why the president has made it open, especially when we look at that of infrastructure, because not quite, I mean, when you look at infrastructure, it's just about 1.32 trillion naira that has been allocated. And reason why the president left it at that, he said, is because he wants increase of private sectors to be involved. And when we look at infrastructure, we're talking about road, water, electricity, and the likes of anything that has to do with infrastructure. So that is to say that every ministry have to be on gear too. We've seen the Senate president have called that. He's suggesting that during this time of going through the budget, all ministers should be in the country. There should be a ban. There should be a travel ban, so that there might be a need to call them and ask certain questions, and then hoping the fact that they will be able to defend all of this money that they said their ministry need, because we cannot imagine giving health a particular money, or giving defense, giving education, and then nothing is coming from your ministry. That means eventually, we saw where they said there might be a merging of ministries if you don't do what is expected of you to do. So as it is right now, Rachel, just like you said, we're just speculating. We are hoping that we'll be able to realize this money, because just like looking at this budget, more borrowing, whether we like it or not. And I'm hoping that even though the Minister of Finance said that the borrowing is actually being, when you look at it, it's kind of it's a reality. We just have to be faced with the reality
We
of
have
things,
to
and
be
that is
faced
why
with
we
it.
have to borrow. In as much as he feels that we cannot continue borrowing
We
to
can't
actually
continue.
finance
We
our
can't
budget year in,
continue.
year out.
Yes.
But then that is to say that every ministry have to work, and that is to say we have to cut down the cost of governance as
We
well.
do.
So I'm hoping that we'll not just be having gyration song going on in the house, but our lawmakers will sit down and start brainstorming what do we need to do, what bill needs to be passed to make sure that things are being realized. Because if we say we have the capacity to have 30 trillion naira revenue, then that means more work for every
For
ministry.
everybody, more work.
So Rachel, our fingers will be crossed.
Yes.
And we hope that everybody will do what they're supposed to do. That is just the only way things will actually work out well. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for doing
You're
this
welcome,
with me.
Siri.
And thank you also to our viewers and supporters at home for keeping the date with us on this program, going through the budget and also hoping that accountability will be the watchword for us here in the country. Until we come here again, to have a blessed day ahead.